I
if
like
you guys
that
do that,
because
then
that
I'll
way I
do
can share
Facebook.
too.
Yeah, the only thing with Facebook, a couple times I went back and looked at some of the older ones that when Sonya went live, you guys would like be discussing stuff that shouldn't have been transmitting.
Yeah.
And
You
you know,
have to
the
know.
for like 5 minutes, and then we were still working around doing stuff, and Facebook was live the whole time while we were doing it. And
Yeah, you
sometimes
have to be
behind the scenes
cognizant.
okay, but it was like, yeah, especially you.
So is he live now?
He is on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can
Right
go. Let me.
And what camera are we on? This one?
This one right here, and then we'll go on
Well,
Facebook
for
as well.
everybody viewing us on YouTube, you're viewing the Chips and Salsa Show. Today's Saturday, March the 3rd, 2018. And we're at the studios of Central City.
Oh, you blew it.
Whoop.
Try
Brandon.
again.
Try again. We're at the studios of CenterRight.live. CenterRight.live. But you can see how it's easy to make that mistake because we used to be on Central City Radio last year, the year before that.
And we still love them.
So we're giving them a little love today by just doing that. But we're on CenterRight.live. So if you go to CenterRight.live, you'll hear the whole program starting at 4 o'clock and watch us. And you can watch us on
a little
YouTube
bit
also,
towards
'cause we're live.
George. There you go. Yeah, and then there
And
you
this
go.
is Gene Copelandson, right?
Copelson.
Copelandson.
Copelson.
Copelandson.
Yeah, I corrected him online. He like
Copelandson.
messed it up, and I went back and.
He's
Not
an
Eugene.
author
He likes to
and
play
a
with people's
great
names.
guest, and you'll be hearing from him in a little while. And there's Alice Lara. She's also here. Didn't mean not to mention her, but she was so busy with her little phone like me. So we're behind. You're looking at behind the scenes before we even start the show. So I just wanted to introduce the show to you. So we'll
3
go on the
minutes.
air in about another 4 minutes, I think, as soon as Steve gives us the word. The word.
Doing some realignments.
Avoid the Jehoid. George, we should do a commercial for Brad Zinn and the Great Comedians.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I
reminder.
remind me.
2 and 1 truth. Oh, when do you want to play Pray the Point?
It has to do with the school thing. Let's get it out of the way fast, so that because
You
none
could
of
do it in
them.
the first segment. And
Yeah,
then,
let's do it in the first.
and then
segment.
right after bring Gene in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get it out. of the
Okay,
way.
I'm ready to go. Facebook Live VR. We got 2 minutes before. You want to go ahead and
Right,
do it
guys,
now?
we're 2 minutes to live, so if, we're gonna shut this door,
Stand by.
but I actually have surveillance up there, so.
Okay.
I'll see you guys.
Hello, Facebook Live.
So in case there's like an issue or somebody
Facebook
wants.
Live, so don't say anything you don't want them to hear out there in
That's the
video
live
land.
show that you guys.
Especially me.
Our first guest today
But I have
is going to be historian, author,
so we don't have a feedback
Gene
loop,
Copelandson.
you know what I mean? Anyway.
The book here is Reagan's 1968 Dress Rehearsal. And you can see the website above there is genecopelandson.com.
Yeah, I have a cabinet right now.
That's for Facebook. Let's see if I can get. I think you're going to have to do it, Gene. I can't reach that far out for this camera here. There you go. A little bit further out. There you go. And that's his book cover looks like. And that's who we're going to be discussing with first.
Nice.
So we're good.
You're
Shut this
good.
down.
You're fast. How did you do that?
I don't know. Let me do it.
You know what's nice sometimes? It'll let you do, like you say, group, and then it lists all the group, and you can go tap, 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 tap. But that doesn't always happen, so I don't know what to do.
So
Alrighty.
we're on Facebook right now.
Facebook.
Can't wait.
Flip this way.
Yeah, I just, well,
That's right.
oh, we're good.
You guys have the Pray for Point? Because I think we're going to do them in this first segment. Is that all right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Do whichever.
You guys about ready?
Yes.
Ready to rock.
All right, we're almost at 4 o'clock. So you guys are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Check. And
Yep.
show
Michael
intro.
Davis says hi, and Maria Rodriguez says hi.
Hi, Michael. And hi, who?
Michael and Maria Rodriguez.
Maria.
Maria.
Do we know Maria Rodriguez?
¿Cómo está Maria? And Michael, ¿cómo está? Welcome to the familia. of the Chips and Salsa show.
The Chips and Salsa show.
Your show. It belongs to all of us and to you too, the community.
That's right.
Hey guys, we are connected to the streaming server. Our recording. Hold on a second. Nope. Can I get a mic check from somebody?
I'm checking the mic. How you doing?
Testing.
How you doing?
How you doing? George, what's our guest name? Jean
Diane Copelandson.
Copelandson. Copelandson.
Gene K.
All right, here we go, guys.
Sorry.
It's written down here. Never Sonny puts it there.
Yeah, no, yeah. Copelandson.
Are we ready to rock here? We are ready to rock. This is the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Alice Lara with...
Jorge Alacran, the despicable one.
We are live from the Center Right Radio Studios here in Tempe, Arizona. We've got a great show for you today. We have conservative conversation, picoso, not mocoso. And we have George, because George was a former California Democrat union man. He turned legislative GOP chairman, 19. And I was a former New Mexico Democrat turned legislative GOP district state committee woman. How do you like them apples, huh?
Yeah, we've been around the block a few times.
Yeah, if this is the first time you listen to the show, what we like to do here is we call it the Chips and Salsa Show because you just kind of pretend that you're sitting around, maybe having a beer, glass of wine, eating some chips and salsa, and we discuss a lot of politics, but not always just politics. We do community resources and events and different things like that. But mostly we want to talk to you and let you know that we are Latino and we are Republican conservatives. And we have a special treat for you today we're going to get to in just a few minutes. We have a wonderful guest, Jean Copelandson, who's written a great book about President Ronald Reagan, Reagan's 1968 dress rehearsal. You're not going to want to miss it. He has some great information, stuff that you haven't heard before, don't know about, and something that led up to making our great party, the Republican Party, great that it is. And we'll talk about Trump in those lines as well. George, before we get this thing started, we also have the cocotazos we're going to talk about.
Yep, we got a few of them.
A bunch of them. And do you want to get some announcements out of the way? Maybe you can do that?
Yeah.
All right.
Why don't we do that?
I do want to tell you that our good friend Kathy Pierce, it's already time, but it's time to get signed up for the annual Arizona Heroes to Hometowns. They will salute a soldier, 5K run or 1 mile walk, and that's, can you believe it, next Saturday, March 10th. You can still pick up a pack of the day of the race. That's going to be at 8 a.m. at Freestone Park, 1045 East Juniper Road in Gilbert. Go to azheroes2hometowns.org to register early or contact Kathy Pierce, our good friend Kathy, and you can email her, Kathy, at azheroes2hometowns.org. Also, last week we had a wonderful guest. We had Tonya Krasinski, who is the executive director of Life Choices Women's Clinics, and they do a lot of good stuff for pregnant mamas. And they have their big fundraiser, Laugh for Hope, April 13th. So you do not want to miss that as well. And also next week, we're going to have Brad Zinn's going to be back. He is going to be doing a dynamite show at the Herzberger on March 23rd, that whole weekend, George. And that's to benefit the Damien Gosa Foundation. And he is, if you've never seen our good friend Brad, you do not want to miss him. He impersonates Johnny Carson.
I know, he does a great job.
Great job. He does a wonderful Ronald Reagan. We should have had him do a little commercial here for Gene. And he does all the old-time comedians. Jack Benny, W.C. Fields, Groucho Marx. He has full gear and props. And one of his missions in life is all the young people that don't know about these great talents. He wants to make sure that they do. So I encourage you. It's a great cause. The tickets are only $35. Please go, and you can get more information. You can go to the Damien Gosa Memorial Foundation website. Let's see if I have that here. Do we have that here? Yes, we do. It's dgm-f.org. dgm-f.org. I think we should play the Prather Point, and then we'll come back and talk to Gene. What do you think, George?
I think that's a great idea.
And also, we have a special treat, too. we have our good friends who will be here talking about the Trump rally, and it's going to be Lisa Antone, and she's a constitutional activist with Patriots in Motion. We have them coming up in the second half too. We're going to get ready to go here in a minute to Jeff Prather. I want to tell you though that the Northwest Conservatives invite you to meet Jeff Prather, and he discusses how the deep state plots against the Trump administration. They're going to meet at 6 p.m. Thursday, March 8th in the Oro Valley Library. This is in Oro Valley. And Prather, as you remember, served as a military intelligence special forces officer, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and on the border for decades with the DEA. He's a world-class firearms instructor and martial arts master, author, speaker, chaplain, and fast and furious whistleblower. And he does have a book online, Terror on the Border. So right now, let's go to our weekly Prather Point, and that's Jeff Prather.
Yeah, sorry, Facebook. That's only online. So if you go to centerright.live, you can hear the Prather Point over there. Thank you.
"30 seconds, guys." Hiding. They're hiding from the pump. And Prather's
George, I'm
out.
just waiting for you to sing. I know you know the words to Secret Agent Man.
You're live.
I know that you know all the words. I can't expect you to sing. And that was Jeff Prather, and every week he has his Prather Point. He's always spot on. One of these days, he's promised us he's going to come and visit us in the studio. He's actually based out of Tucson. He always has some good stuff. Well, at this point, I'd like to bring in our first guest, and we welcome Gene Copelson. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
He is author of Reagan's 1968 Dress Rehearsal, Ike, RFK, and Reagan's Emergence as a World Statesman. Did I get that whole time
You
right?
sure did. Thank you, Alice.
You bet. I was telling the audience, we do a little promo, George and I, before on Facebook, because we want to tell everybody what's going to happen on the show. And by the way, you can look for us every week. We do it like about 20 till 4. That way you can share and you know what's going to be on the show. Get your questions ready, whatever you want to do. But Gene came to our Central Republican Women of Phoenix Club, and he gave us a wonderful presentation. He had some fantastic audio clips that I had never heard of great President Reagan. I'm sorry you missed that, George.
I know.
You missed a great job. But what I want to ask you, Gene, is what inspired you to write this book? Evidently, you must like Reagan just a little bit. Oh, first, we should talk about your background. You have kind of a neat background, what you actually do in your life besides being an author.
Well, in real life, I'm a cancer physician, but this is my avocation. I'm the president of the New England chapter and the national trustee of the Theodore Roosevelt Association in Boston. I am an active Churchillian through the International Churchill Society. I'm also a Holocaust educator, besides being a medical doctor. And I very much view the time of Ronald Reagan, one of my personal heroes, like all of the people listening here, as a great time for America. It was a golden age. All Reagan did to create 25 million real jobs. He defeats communism without firing a shot. And most importantly of all, he restored pride in America after the debacle of the Carter presidency. And I wanted to learn about why he sought the presidency. And the subject I chose, 1968, has never been written about before. People know that he ran in 1980. That was actually the third time he sought the presidency. And a few folks may remember in 1967 he ran against incumbent Gerald Ford. But nothing has been written about his first run. And it was a thrill for me to bring that history to light.
Well, I tell you what, you did it beautifully. And I don't know if you're going to be doing any more presentations around the Valley. If you are, you need to let us know.
Monday evening for a different Republican women's group at McCormick Ranch.
Oh, okay. And I can't remember which one. They're not the Paradise Valley. It might be Lincoln.
No, they are the Lincoln
The
Republican
Lincoln
women.
Republican
Right.
women. Okay, great. And that's a really good group. If you have a chance to go there, if you're Republican, they welcome Republicans. It's well worth your while, because what was so impressive is I was telling the audience, you know, I was not quite 10 in 1968. The end of 68, I turned 10. So that was, you know, exciting for me. But just to hear all the different things that you talked about, because I didn't pay attention when I could have when I voted. We'll talk more about that. We've got to already wrap up, but we have another segment. We're going to talk to Gene Copelson and dig more into this. So keep listening to the Chips and Salsa Show here with Alice Lara and
Jorge, Don Jorge.
we'll be right back with Gene Copelson, our Reagan author. Do not go away. Stay with us.
At Facebook, we're staying live with you guys. We won't transfer to commercial.
Let's do an advertisement for One Truth. When you lot. We have a great sponsor, and One Truth is just a fantastic band. And George is the one who turned us on to One Truth.
We love their song Inferno, but they have other songs: Ocean of Dreams, I Will Die for You, Buried Alive, Baby Flowers, Paradise, and many more. But the Inferno, the song Inferno, it captivated us all, because we played it over the years on the Chips and Salsa Show, segments of it, and we're all in love with that song. And it grows on you. And then if you order the video, this is a video of the tape. If you order it on iTunes, you'll get a film, an extra disc in here that shows him filming Inferno, and he explains the whole theory behind the song Inferno. And so it gives you an insight into his song, the way he records, and he talks about other songs in here. It's called One Truth by J.C. Gonzalez on iTunes. So if you can get it. Then you can give them as gifts to your friends, or you can just keep it for yourself. That's One Truth.
You know, I know we're still on Facebook, but we can continue a little bit of the interview, because we do have the whole enchilada here. We have a doctor and a historian, you know, and very busy. Are you retired now?
Semi-retired.
Semi-retired?
And you compared Ike and Reagan to Trump?
Yes. Well, that's at the end of my book. My book is about Reagan's first presidential campaign, and there are three basic themes: the nuts and bolts of that history, which is a very exciting story, because Richard Nixon only becomes the nominee that summer in the wee hours of the morning, when the convention gets up to W for Wisconsin. And he only wins by, on the first ballot, by 25 votes more than necessary. There were many, many delegates at Miami Beach who couldn't wait to vote for Ronald Reagan on the second ballot had Nixon been stopped. But I actually uncovered the more important history during the research for that, and that is behind the scenes in the 60s, Reagan had a hidden mentor, an advisor on domestic politics and world affairs, and that was Dwight Eisenhower. People don't associate Ike and Reagan, but I tell that history for the first time. And the third theme is that Reagan's main political foe in the 60s, of all people, was Robert Kennedy. People don't associate Reagan and Bobby Kennedy, and I tell that story as well.
All right, that's great. Well, we're coming back here in a few seconds. And we are back with the Chips and Salsa show. You know what? It's a good show because it's moving fast. George, don't you think so?
When it moves fast, it's interesting, and the show, it's always interesting.
It's so true. I'm Alice Nada here with Don Jorge.
Don Jorge, one of the deplorable Trumpistas.
Yeah, the Alacran. And we're here every Saturday at 4 p.m. And today we have a wonderful guest. We have Gene Copelson. He is author of Reagan's 1968 Press Rehearsal, Ike, RFK, that's Robert Kennedy, and Reagan's Emergence as a World Statesman. We were talking a little bit over the break on Facebook, and you really did a good job at our Women's Club and talking about something I never thought of, that President Dwight Eisenhower was actually his mentor.
This is brand new history. It's never been known before by even Major Reagan insiders, Secretary of State George Shultz, Attorney General Edwin Meese, and other very important historians, Paul Kengor, Lee Edwards, and others. It was a thrill to uncover this at the Eisenhower Presidential Library in Abilene, Kansas. The archives that have hardly been looked at before by any historian, basically the Reagan-Eisenhower correspondence over a number of years, starting in the summer of 1965 and continuing until Eisenhower's death in March of 1969, shortly after Nixon becomes president. But the influence of Eisenhower throughout the Reagan presidential years is something I discuss in my epilogue. And the fact that one president saw something in the next generation, in this case Ike to Reagan, is something that is very rare in history. And so much of what Ronald Reagan achieved on all of our behalf, such as defeating communism, how he did that by having a strong American economy and a strong American military, originated from specific advice he received from Dwight Eisenhower.
And we're so glad that he took it. But you talked, what I enjoyed too, is you talked about how they were really good buddies on their golfing expeditions. They talked a lot of politics.
Correct. They did. They met for personal meetings, mainly on the golf course. And those of you who are golfers here in Arizona, which means almost everybody,
Yeah.
you know it's not 5 minutes. It's multiple hours together on the links, in the golf cart. And they discussed domestic politics, whether Reagan should be considered a vice presidential candidate paired with liberal Republican Nelson Rockefeller. Eisenhower thought that was a very bad idea. He wanted people of the same political philosophy. And their ranging discussions were ranged from how Ike had stopped the fighting in Korea 15 years earlier, how the war in Vietnam was being mismanaged by Democrat Lyndon Johnson. Ike and Reagan were the ones who wanted, and Reagan publicly, the only candidate in '68 who actually wanted to win. They said the Democrats put our boots on the ground, that was Lyndon Johnson, give the boys the tools to fight, and if not, bring them home. And that meant hot pursuit. If enemy aircraft or troops flee over an adjacent border, you go after them. You block Haiphong Harbor, the source of supplies to North Vietnam. You don't stop the bombing halts that were proposed by Johnson, and they each came up with the idea of moving the American Navy north to stage maneuvers off the coast of North Vietnam, threatening an amphibious invasion of the North. That would draw the troops of North Vietnam northwards to defend their own homeland. Reagan and Ike wanted the North Vietnamese quaking in their beds every night, wondering what America would do next. And never do you tell your enemies in advance what you do or don't do in the
Like
battlefield.
some presidents we know.
Correct. And in fact, if you listened carefully 3-4 weeks ago to President Trump's State of the Union message, he said virtually those exact same words. And I think looking down from above, Reagan and Ike would have been horrified that President Obama told in advance when our troops would be withdrawn from Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, Eisenhower was the leader of D-Day. Do you think that he sent Adolf Hitler in advance a listing of what he would or wouldn't do? Of course not. There's part of that thread, Ike to Reagan to Trump, that I also discuss briefly in my talks and mention very slightly in my book.
Now, I don't want to get away without you saying, if someone wants to purchase your book, is it on Amazon?
It is at both at Amazon and the main publisher, which is the University of Southern California Figueroa Press, Figueroa. But there's also a Kindle version on Amazon for those of you who like to read books on a tablet device.
Nice. I want to ask you, because there are a lot of our audience members, unfortunately, getting older. So I was alive when Reagan was alive. And in fact, my first time that I got to vote, because that's when they had just changed it to 18, I think I was 20 when I got to vote. And I did not vote for Reagan because I wasn't paying attention to politics correctly. In fact, I just thought, you know what, I don't like either of these guys. So I was an independent and I actually voted for Jack Anderson, I think it was. But, you know, I didn't really know politics. So what I want to ask you is, in today's world, because I don't know how many 18-year-olds actually are out there paying attention and thinking about voting when they're 18. What would you communicate to a young person? What's like the most important thing they really should know about Reagan?
Well, one of the critical things he said at his farewell address in 1989 was that American society has to teach history. Because if present generation and future generations don't know where we came from, the Declaration of Independence, the USS Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they have no idea why this country was founded, what it stands for. We have our own sovereign country. We're not here to become just another cog within a global government run by the UN. We have important American laws, and other laws of other nations don't supersede our laws. And the founders believed in those documents. They gave their lives at the time of the revolution to bring freedom. And the difference is other countries were ruled by kings for thousands of years, be it a constitutional form of government as in Great Britain, which has a nominal head of state, but is run by parliament. But America is unique. We govern ourselves. And in order to do that, we have to have citizenry that's educated, knows why we are here. And that includes every new generation. They have to be taught so they know where we're at versus where we have been.
That's so well said. And the other thing, too, I wanted to ask you is, I started to ask you a little bit at the meeting, I know. Reagan was a Democrat.
Correct.
And he became Republican. Well, Trump
Well,
was a Democrat also.
People have switched parties, and in fact, one of the people who appears in my book, Reagan's 1968 Dress Rehearsal, is Hillary Rodham, who was a Republican.
Yeah, that's right.
She was a staunch Goldwater supporter when she was in New England in college, and attended the 1968 Republican Convention as a supporter of liberal Republican Nelson Rockefeller. Well, Ronald Reagan was, for many decades, a Democrat. He really liked one of Franklin Roosevelt's earliest speeches, where, believe it or not, FDR wanted to decrease the federal government budget by 25% and return power to the states. And of course, FDR ends up doing the exact opposite. Reagan in the 40s and 50s was becoming more and more outspoken, wanting individual freedom, small government. And in the early 1950s, he looked around, he thought Harry Truman, who took over, of course, after FDR passed away in office, was mismanaging the Korean War, continued the massive growth of the federal government. And he said, you know, Dwight Eisenhower would be a good person for the presidency. That was at a point where no one knew Ike's politics. And when Ike revealed he was Republican, Reagan said, you know, if I thought he was the best man for the job when I thought he was a Democrat, but since he's a Republican, I still think he's the best man for the job. And he became a Democrat for Ike. And over the 50s, he went around the country as a spokesman for General Electric, because he was on the TV show General Electric Theater and was their national spokesman at many factories across the nation. He spoke out about small government and individual freedom. And finally, in the early 60s, he switched parties. and other people too, besides George and Alice. Winston Churchill switched twice, and creates problems when you switch. But people have firm principles. When they believe they didn't leave the party left them. And that phrase was what Ronald Reagan used many, many times.
What do you think about Trump? I mean, we have a guest that's been here before, Jesse Romero, and he said something that I thought was pretty revealing. He goes, one of the reasons he believed that Trump is very successful is because he used to be a Democrat, so he knows how they work, and that's probably was a little true of Reagan himself. But do you have any predictions and comparisons between Trump and Reagan?
Well, predictions I don't have, but because a lot of my work is about Eisenhower as well, I think the three of them bring very unique things to the presidency. They each had other careers and entered politics late in life. Eisenhower, of course, in the military for many decades. Ronald Reagan, actor and president of the Screen Actors Guild, and Donald Trump in business. They weren't there as lifelong politicians. Jerry Brown, present governor of California. He was governor of California in mid-1970s too. And
I know people
the
forget that.
Bidens and other lifelong political families who never had to create a budget, hire people, fire people. They were not there in the Illinois State Senate saying present, as Barack Obama did, never making a decision. So they know how to make decisions. And they were not the party favorites. Others were the favorites of the party. All three of them were the party outsiders. Yet they believe in American exceptionalism. They know that America needs a strong economy to achieve her role on the national stage. And Donald Trump is following in those footsteps. NATO defending Japan, Taiwan, Korea. We have different geopolitical enemies now, not the Soviet Union, but Russia. And now China, of course, is emerging both economically as well as politically in the South China Seas, building and expanding artificial islands for their navy that we have to now deal with. We want to defend Taiwan. Eisenhower did it, Reagan as well. And these are the same issues. And of course, the story that never seems to go away is North Korea. Part of what I discuss is in early 1968 in Vietnam, the USS Pueblo intelligence ship is hijacked by North Korea. And Ronald Reagan saw how that was mismanaged and learned how to deal with hostage crises from that. Yet here we are still having to deal with North Korea under President Trump.
Yep, great job. Can you stay with us a little
Of
bit
course.
longer? Okay, Gene. We'll be right back. I'm Alice Latta with George Ortiz. Stay tuned for more of the Chips and Salsa Show here on Center Right Radio. We'll finish up the next segment and then we can bring the girls in.
Okay.
Again.
Subject I'd be happy to discuss. Eisenhower and Reagan had a very interesting correspondence about hyphenated Americans, a term that actually started with Teddy
Let's
Roosevelt.
talk about that.
They did not want people called Mexican Americans, Irish Americans, Black Americans. They thought Democrats did that to divide people into subgroups who could then claim they're being discriminated against. They wanted people called Americans of Hispanic descent, Americans of German descent, Americans first, because they want a unified country. Republicans don't care what your skin color is, what your sex is, what your religion. They want to bring individual freedom and hard work for people, not that you're in a certain group and you should get special privileges as a result of that.
Let's definitely talk about that.
But that's up to you. They're
No,
just a suggestion.
no, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't realize that. You know, when I was a little girl, I remember I had a lot of family in California, and I remember my aunt saying, because remember at that time they were calling themselves Chicanos
Right.
and all that stuff,
Right.
and she lambasted my brother and said, "No, you are a Mexican American." And she was very much because all the family and the Latinos were all Democrats. You are a Mexican American. She almost got mad at him for that.
You might
then that
enjoy an
changed.
article I wrote. It's in California history. It's about Reagan in '66 gets almost 50% of the votes of Hispanics in California because of how he campaigned with them and sought their votes. there's some nice pictures in there too of Reagan on horseback and things like that.
It's huge nose.
Is that a rally next week that they're talking about? Karen Shuttle says, "Hey Gene, could you come to the rally next weekend? Please come, Gene." Oh,
That's very
Karen.
kind.
Yeah, how long are you staying?
I'm back in Florida.
Oh, okay.
I'm here for my book tour and then I continue there.
Yeah, that would be good if you could go together. That's too bad. When do you leave?
Thursday afternoon.
Okay, 'cause not till.
But you can tell people I'm at the Lincoln Republican dinner Monday in McCormick Ranch. I've forgotten somewhere there.
You can tell Facebook. Let everybody on Facebook know.
Yeah, you can talk to the camera right there. Gene wants to let you know where he's going to be Monday.
I'll be at McCormick Ranch speaking to the Lincoln Republicans Women's Dinner all about my book, as well as concentrating on the brand new to history Reagan-Eisenhower relationship.
You can bring the girls in.
Yeah, we could just kind of sit them on, listen in, yeah. Because it all blends in together.
Do you want them now?
All righty. Great. Okay, we're back. Okay. This is the Chips and Salsa Show. It's a fast show, George. I'm Alice Latta here with George Ortiz.
Yeah, we're bringing in the girls here in a minute.
Yeah, we're going to bring in our other guests. We're going to finish up with Jim Colson. But we want to take a few minutes and talk about, this is really fascinating too over the break what he was talking about. Hyphenated Americans.
I like, and I agree with that 100%.
Well,
We
we
should-
should let our audience
Yeah.
know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Explain what you were saying about.
This is actually a term that began with President Theodore Roosevelt many decades ago, but do my research, I learned of letters between Dwight Eisenhower and Ronald Reagan. They felt that Democrats liked calling people what they termed hyphenated Americans, that is, Mexican Americans, German Americans, Black Americans. That way there could be subgroups of Americans who Democrats could then claim they were being discriminated against and needed specific programs for them. Excuse me. Reagan and Eisenhower thought the exact opposite. They wanted people called Americans first. Americans of Hispanic descent, Americans of Irish descent. We want to be called Americans first. Republicans don't care about your skin color, your sex, your gender. We want hard work, individual freedom, and small government to raise all boats. That's what free market capitalism does, and not claim the discrimination because of what race you may be.
To add to that, I 100% agree. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm American Puerto Rican. I'm an American Hispanic. I'm a black person of black descent should be an American black. It's always you're an American first. This thing of Black Lives Matter, Mexican American, illegal American, it's ridiculous. Okay, legal Americans, they are illegal. Not Americans, they're illegal aliens. But when you refer to Hispanics that are Americans, it should be American Hispanic because we're all Americans. And I'm glad that you brought that up because I'm glad to hear that Reagan and I both agreed on that because that's the Democrats' way of dividing all of the races and making it a race issue. And
Correct.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm going to remember that more and more because we have to get away from this, Mexican Americans. Right?
I never put that together. I'm so
Chicano.
glad that you said that.
When I was in the college, it was Chicano
Yeah.
Mecha, Chicano Americans, and I was like, I'm not a
You're
Chicano.
Chicanos and you're Hispanic, and after a while I would be like, I don't care what you call me, it doesn't matter.
Right,
But
we want
American
American.
first.
Teddy Roosevelt, Reagan, that's the thread for that particular theme. Want people called Americans first.
That's
We
right.
don't want a balkanized country with different sections, speaking different languages, having different cultures. We're American.
And that's what happened, and that's the problem too, when people come and they don't assimilate. My husband and I were talking about this because in California especially, I know there's always there's a little Chinatown, Olivera Street, but you still prevailing was of the American culture. So you could celebrate the culture of Mexico or the culture of China and have all this stuff. But the people were always proud and first to be Americans, and we've lost that, and it's very sad to me.
Correct. When Reagan became governor of California at his inauguration, he brought in many themes of the Hispanic background as well as early California Spanish background into his inauguration and the inaugural balls in January of 1967.
Great.
Did you meet any of the Reagan? Or any
I was too young. I wish I had, other than the people from today. Edwin Meese, as Attorney General, I've met a number of times and will soon again. I'm speaking in the nation's capital at the Heritage Foundation next month. And Secretary of State George Shultz, only over the phone, not in person, hopefully someday still.
We have a friend of ours, Frank Dorwell, and he worked for the Reagan administration.
The extra
And he
15
worked,
minutes
he was
will
the undersecretary for
Let's do that. We'll bring
Ed
him in next
Meeks.
week.
And he comes on our show quite a bit. And,
Wonderful.
Yeah, he's
Another theme, by the way, in my book, Reagan's 1968 Dress Rehearsal, is Students for Reagan, the story of how students in the 60s, you think about the far left and Columbia University student protests and takeover of administration buildings and hippies and anti-war, there was an equal movement. It didn't get the same publicity on the right, and conservatives were out there, and that was the origin of Ronald Reagan's appeal to the youth. And I tell the story of Students for Reagan, many on the West Coast, as well as at the University of Arizona. I discussed that. But even to this day, congressmen from California, such as Dana Rohrabacher, appears in my book his early days camping out on the Reagan lawn in Pacific Palisades because there were some threats to close down Students for Reagan. And when Reagan came out still shaving to discuss it with Dana, he said he's not going to do it. He didn't know about it. And Students for Reagan continued.
Wow. There's so much history in you. That's the one advantage of being older because you do remember those things.
how could I get his book?
You can get it at Figueroa Press at the University of Southern California. My website, Gene Kopelson, GeneKopelson.com, has the link, or at Amazon, which also has a Kindle version for those folks who like a tablet version to read.
And if someone would like you to come and talk to you, you're on a book tour right now, so
Correct.
probably booked, but they can probably contact you.
Yes,
your
through my
website.
website, GeneKopelson.com, has a contact link at the end.
All
I'd love to speak in the future to come back to Arizona.
Great. And you can also contact me if you like. I've got his information. I have his email. You can always email me, alice@chipsandsalsashow.com. Great. All right, we're going to be breaking here in a little bit, and we're going to bring on our next guest. But what did we not cover? Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with, Gene, before
Well,
you leave?
If you're intrigued by the discussions about Bobby Kennedy, Ronald Reagan defeated Bobby Kennedy on an internationally televised debate on Vietnam on March 15, 1967. That's actually the first time in public Ronald Reagan called to tear down the Berlin Wall. Not a generation later, but that particular day. And he thrashed Robert Kennedy in that debate. Kennedy was not prepared. Reagan had studied. And at the Kennedy home in Virginia, Ethel Kennedy is yelling at the TV, "Bobby's killing you. Do something, do something." Well, even the liberal media agreed. Reagan won that debate hands down. And Republicans at home said, you know, we don't want in 1968 another Nixon-Kennedy debate fiasco. Here's winner Ronald Reagan, who just became governor of California, our nation's most populous state, by almost 1 million votes. And now he defeats Robert Kennedy. We want Reagan in 1968 to be our nominee. And that was a major bump up. But there's a lot more how Robert Kennedy actually, behind the scenes when he was Attorney General, threatened General Electric with loss of contracts if they did not cancel Ronald Reagan's show General Electric Theater, because Reagan was a conservative. And behind the scenes, Robert Kennedy also arranged to have the IRS audit 10 years of Kennedy tax returns. A lot of that is by other historians, as my book cites. I just go into that summary as part of the Kennedy story. And when Robert Kennedy, in the spring of '68, after Lyndon Johnson announces he's not going to seek re-election, decides to enter the race, that's a major impetus for Reagan to get his campaign once again off the ground. He delivers 5 white paper speeches attacking the foreign policy and defense failures of the Kennedy-Johnson years. And unfortunately, when, of course, Bobby Kennedy is assassinated, in early June of '68. That takes the wind out a little bit from the Reagan campaign. But Reagan shifts gears, and he has many nice things to say about Bobby Kennedy. Even when he enters the White House 15 years later, he gives a Congressional Gold Medal of Honor to Mrs. Kennedy and the remaining Kennedy family because the prior president, Jimmy Carter, didn't want to. The reason that happened was Ted Kennedy primaried against Jimmy Carter in 1980. Carter wanted nothing to do with them, but Ronald Reagan was extremely magnanimous to his former political foe of the 60s by honoring the memory of Robert Kennedy. And this was only a few weeks after the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan.
What
And
a
I tell that
class-
whole story.
That's a class act, is it not? Oh my goodness.
We miss him.
Gene, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
When you're
you.
back in Arizona, please visit again.
I will.
Please, everyone, think about buying his book. It's Gene Copelson. He wrote Reagan's 1968 dress rehearsal, Ike, RFK, and Reagan's emergence as a world statesman. Continuous. We'll be right back with some more great guests. I'm Alice Lotto with
Jorge, Don Jorge.
to the Chips and Salsa Show here on Center Right Radio. Good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I will
Stay in touch.
vacate, let the other guests sit here. Thank you guys very, very much.
All righty.
Are you staying, Gene, or are you heading out?
I gotta head out.
Okay.
But thank you for all the information, and I wanna get your email address so I can get on the podcast. Or I can do it through Alice.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do that.
And then,
Thank you, Gene.
If you didn't
Thank you,
get the
guys.
other message that I sent you.
Yes, I did, and I gotta see what went
Yeah.
wrong with that.
And
If not,
the
you got
Democrats,
it.
they
Okay,
just
I'll
start
use
running.
it for you, 'cause I didn't want,
Well,
need
Do you
to
think,
do
can we give you an
Okay,
extra
cool.
like 10 minutes or something?
Which are they?
They're 16.
Just-
Okay.
That way we, because they have a lot to say.
Yes, 900 pages.
To be fair,
That's fine.
I like to.
Yeah,
You want
and,
me to?
And then they can put another extra seat over there. for the
I
guy
haven't,
and-
I haven't. Well, we're
Or
gonna-
they can sit out
well,
there.
the two girls were gonna be the guests.
Yeah, the two girls will be the guests and then the other ones, because you're showing it out there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just in the future, we want to make sure that
Yeah, no.
people aren't here too early
Yeah, it's not-
or too late.
'cause we'll still be with them,
You
and
know.
we gotta wrap up soon.
Well, I've been asking them
I
to get
know.
here at 3:30
But I'm just saying,
because,
timing is everything. It's of the essence.
Yeah, whatever,
because,
whatever's good for you, I mean, whatever your schedule is. I
that
can
way
be
they're here when we do our promotion.
Yeah.
So like we had, and we
I
can have
got you.
We'll be done,
That makes sense.
normally we.
Okay, so-
And you know why too?
We
Because
got a
this is,
minute and a half to get everybody
Okay,
seated
minute and a
up.
half, lady.
because it's a tricky place to find. And that way it gives them time to find it.
Well, what we need to do is put something together, like with a map, and we need to just get some time to do that together.
And I apologize because I always bring them in during a break. So that's
Yeah,
my,
no, yeah,
because I thought we'd finish them off, have them sneak in here and then do the switch.
it's hard here right now. Yeah.
So
you're gonna
one-
go-
one's
Let 'em
over here.
decide what I want.
You gotta kinda slide through
Do the
the,
limbo rock like I
what's the
did.
cable there.
You can do it.
Small
Limbo,
underneath.
limbo. You can do it.
Sorry.
All right, we'll come back.
It's temporary, we're gonna redo some other stuff. You got it, you're clear.
And the whole enchiladas.
And then just about 4 inches from the mics when you're talking.
Or we can do the Google Docs, so.
All right, thanks, James.
They can be a part of it and help us.
Okay, whatever way.
Often people ask us to publish anything. There you go. You can selfies?
15 to live, guys. 15 to live.
And we are live on Facebook already, ladies.
Yeah, and on YouTube also.
Oh, folks, we're already doing selfies.
Yeah. And then Jennifer, I'm gonna need you
So
to
you
scoot a
saw them
little closer
doing their
to Alice
selfies.
and in. Same thing with Lisa, a little bit there. There you go, good.
And we are back with the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Alice Latta here with
Don Jorge Alacran, the despicable Hillary Trumpista.
Hillary Trumpista. Hey, we are here every Saturday at 4 p.m. Getting our walk on today. We had a great guest, Gene Copelson. You know, there's so much that he didn't talk about. There's so much in that book. And if you are a historian and want to learn more about the origins of the more modern day Republican Party and different things, I encourage you to read the book or maybe go Monday and go check him out. There's Lincoln Republican Women's Club.
He's a good historian. He really brings up some good topics. I like that part about where they both got together saying that they agreed that it's American first, American Hispanic, American Black, American Puerto
Yeah,
Rican.
no hyphenated American, so American of Mexican heritage,
Yeah,
which I try to remember to do that.
and it's so we got so used to the other way because the Democrats have been saying it for so long.
They drilled it into us, didn't
They
they?
make you. I mean, it's like part of your language, and it's not right. It should be all Americans.
I agree. We're going to do a little bit extra show here because we ran a little long with Gene. So the marvelous Brandon Jones, our director here at Central Right Radio, is going to give us an extra 10, 15 minutes. I also want to give kudos to Steve Palmer behind the scenes there, our technical director. Thank you, guys. Secret Sonia, too, you know what? She's so good. She still prints us some good stuff for us that works behind the scenes. So, Secret Sonia, thank you very much. How about, George, I'll introduce our guests real quick, and then they can help us with the cocotazos, and then we'll talk about what they're going to do.
That sounds good to me.
All right, we are privileged and honored to have with us in studio. We have Lisa Antone. She is a constitutional activist with Patriots in Motion. And then also with Patriots in Motion is Jennifer Harrison. Thank you for coming in, girls.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Ladies, Patriots, Republican women of the world. So let's do this. Before you tell your audience why you're here and what you're going to do, you want to help us out with these Cocotazo nominations?
Absolutely.
All right, George, you want to tell them do you know what a Cocotazo is?
No.
I do not.
A
George
Cocotazo, the Puerto Ricans, is like when a child talked out of place or said something stupid, the parent would go behind their head just like, hey.
Are you gonna hit us?
Yeah.
So
Do we get to hit
that was a
anybody else?
well, that was a Cocotazo.
Okay.
And Mexicans, it's the chanclazo.
Chanclazo.
They throw the chancla, the
Okay.
slipper across the room and, hey, big.
Like your flip-flop?
Yes, yes.
we are well aware.
We are aware of that one.
In
So-
all the different cultures has their own version of it, I
Right.
guess.
So we call it the Cocotazo nomination. That's stupid people saying stupid
So
stuff.
who we're gonna throw a shoe at?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have
The
8 of
proverbial
them.
shoe.
we have
Awesome.
many nominations. Okay. All right, I'm just going to whip through these and
We're
And
gonna
kind
pick
of as
one.
your- think which one is the best because we go around the room and we ask you which one you think is the best.
Okay.
All right, so a student in Louisiana is being investigated after saying the square root symbol looks like a gun. You know that little square root?
Yes.
All right, number 2, leftist students freak out. No, I guess the students freak out when panel agrees men and women are different.
Oh, I saw that one.
See that one? Yeah, okay. And by the way, you can go to our Facebook site. We put all these up during the
Okay.
week. So if you missed any of them, just go through there and you can see them all.
Yes.
Number 3, districts spent on desegregation without programs in place. This is my own Roosevelt School District that I live in, and not cool. They had a lot of money designated for these programs, but they didn't put them in place. Okay, number 4, Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy, and she said, if guns weren't in stores, no one could buy them.
Oh, boy.
Wah, wah. Okay, number 5. Chicago is launching an ID card for illegal immigrants that will be a valid form of identification for those registering to vote. George, did you see that one?
Triggered. So bad. Tucker's been doing that.
Yeah, Tucker had
Yeah.
the person on.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
So
blow your mind. Number 6. Pelosi shreds Trump over ICE raids in California. And every week we have
That was
Pelosi.
my
don't we?
favorite.
Yes.
Every week she's on the list. Okay, number 7. We still have 2 more. Barack Obama, the scandal king.
Mm-hmm.
There are no scandals
Right.
in my administration. Okay, number 8. Representative Luis Gutierrez says Trump, the GOP doesn't want anyone who isn't white in America.
Oh,
I mean, there's a lot to pick from.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? How do can we narrow
Can
it
I
down
go?
to 2?
I'm ready.
Are
Can
you
we,
ready?
can we go 2?
I'm ready.
Jennifer, what's your one?
I'm going for Chicago launching the ID cards.
That's a big one.
It's a
It's
huge
a
one.
huge
Okay,
one.
Huge.
That's one for that one. Okay, how about you, Miss Lisa?
Oh, just one. You're sure I have to stick with one?
It helps. I know it's hard.
I have extra flip-flops. I've got chocolates. I'll pitch in some extra flip-flops here. Oh, they're all so bad. They're all so bad. I'm passing.
want
I'm
us to come
passing.
back to you?
Yes, I'm passing.
George, do you know which one to vote for?
Mine is Pelosi shreds Trump over ICE raids in California. That's so stupid. Either they do the raids and the mayor of what is it, San
Oakland.
Francisco of Oakland announces it ahead of time. You're putting the ICE agents in danger, You don't do that.
Right.
These were criminals they were after. They should be against the law what she did. And for Pelosi defending that, I think, or shredding Trump up about it, that's a big cocotazo.
All right, so
And
you
the other
vote
one
for
is
your
number,
girlfriend Pelosi.
and the other one is number 8, but I go for number
No,
6.
Pelosi's with it, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to go to, come on, Steve Palmer, you've got one over there you want to pick?
Oh, I'm with Lisa. That's like, okay, am I a guy, am I a girl? The gun. Mind blown on all of them. Big Second Amendment, I'd have to go with the gun if I have to choose one.
Okay,
Where
so.
you can't buy the guns in the store, they wouldn't
Depends
have,
where
they
it
wouldn't
gets
exist.
sold.
Yeah,
That's
girl,
like pretty
right.
stupid.
I wasn't even focusing on that one.
This is a good one, too.
Brandon, shall we go to you? What do you think, buddy?
I hate Nancy Pelosi.
Your girlfriend.
You don't like George's girlfriend?
I can't stand her. I think she's on drugs. I don't know what she's doing.
All right, so you're gonna pick Pelosi?
Yes.
She's so popular here. All right, Lisa, have you decided?
It's like when
Gotta
you go to
break
a
it.
restaurant and they have like a 15-page menu and the waitress comes over and says, pick one thing and you haven't eaten in 3 days. I'm like, one of each, I'll take one of each. Okay, I'm gonna have to go with, I got the gun.
TikTok.
There's so many.
Watch. You know what, I can't. They're
There's
all,
so
they're
many.
all so
All right.
bad.
Here you go.
Okay,
Pelosi.
I got the girlfriend,
Okay,
Pelosi.
All right, I think the Pelosi is a good one. I really do. But I have to say, I'm so outraged of Chicago doing that
Yes.
with their IDs. And they had the guest on Tucker. And the guy was just denying it. Oh, no, they can't use it to
Right.
vote. No, they're not going to be able to do it. And you know that's not right. So I have to go with Jennifer on that. However, girlfriend Pelosi beat us out.
Okay.
So she is the winner, the Cocatazo Award. Dun, 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 dun,
My
dun,
wife's
dun.
going to think I have something going on.
Maybe you do. Don't bring home a Pelosi wig for her to wear.
Oh, boy.
You might be in big trouble.
I'll be in trouble.
Hey, let's do something fun now. This is even fun and better. Since we always have every week the Cocatazo Awards, we wanted to introduce something positive, and we're going to call it, we might change the name, the Whole Enchilada Award. So this is a positive thing, things that people have done.
This is a good
We
thing.
like enchiladas.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to read those, George?
Yeah, the Whole Enchilada Award for 3/3/18. Number 1, the German Shepherd survives multiple gunshots while trying to protect his owner.
So
And those animals are very devoted
Yes.
and very smart. That's a good one. World War II hero Millie Bailey celebrated her 100th birthday. I thought that
God
was
bless her.
really, really good. And then Condoleezza Rice slams Adam Schiff on the Russia investigation.
which was great. Okay, are we going to have to vote on that one, or do we give them all a whole enchilada?
I think they all deserve a whole enchilada.
Yeah.
I'm still going back to the throwing the flip flops at all 8 of those.
She wants to throw her flip flops.
I do. I really need to invest in flip flops.
You know,
Okay.
some days we have so many, we have to cut them down.
I
because they're
bet.
so many.
Okay, let's talk some about your organization and what you're doing, and introduce our. We have YouTube, we got Facebook, we got live on Central City Live.
No,
What is it,
Central Right,
Right.
Central
Live.
right.
Thank
Get
you,
rid
thank you,
of
Steve. CenterRight.live. Center Right Radio.
Tattoo time.
It'll blend in. Okay, Jennifer.
We are a group of constitutional activists. Our name of our group is Patriot Movement AZ. You can find us on Facebook at Patriot Movement AZ. And we are a local group of folks here in Arizona. We stand up for the Constitution. We stand up for the Republican platform right now. And we think it's just important to get out there and energize the community into being proud of our president, being proud of our party, and making some noise.
Now, what's this rally thing I keep hearing about?
So we are having we haven't seen any this year. Last year when Trump was first elected, there was a lot of rallies and a lot of stuff going on, and it kind of simmered down because it sort of, blew out. So we decided that with, we have a president who we love that can't eat 2 scoops of ice cream without being lambasted by the left. And so we decided to have a 1-year celebration for our president and for the America First agenda. And so this year we're having it on next Saturday, March 10th. We traditionally do them at the Capitol. This year we decided to take it to a park. We really wanted that kind of community feel. And we have some amazing speakers. Like Jen said, you know, we believe in being active and trying to get people active. And we're out there Jen and I are out there almost every day, out on the streets, trying to see what's going on and let people know this is what's going on in Phoenix or this is what's going on in Tucson, you know, and show them, you know, because people don't understand, you know, when people are like, well, Arizona's so conservative.
No.
Sure, if you don't look. But when you start looking and peeling back the layers of Arizona politics, we're in trouble. And so it's really important. So this is kind of our way of energizing people. We have some awesome speakers coming in from California to speak to the crowd and engage. You know, and a lot of course, you know, our type of people know them. You know, the On the Street Patriots know Will Johnson and Ben Bergwim and Harim Uziel and Terry. You guys know Terry XM MAGA.
Yeah,
she's gonna speak. Yeah, Terry Mendoza's gonna speak. She's not from California, but it's that same kind of thing. You know, we're getting these grassroots people together, and where Californians can come in. And
Are you girls from California?
no, I lived there for 10 years.
No, I'm originally from New York, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got that New York
Yeah.
accent.
So
I hear you guys carry some flags and stuff.
we
Say
carry our
Trump.
flags everywhere we go. We have one in
People trying to snatch
we
it
have
from
one
you?
in every vehicle. So
Wow.
if I'm driving, she's flying it out the window and vice versa. And you know, people for the most part, you know, we get a lot of thumbs up and honks and waves, but they're very quiet and they're very reserved and they're afraid to throw their hand up in the air and say, yeah, we support our president too.
Because you got so much hate out there. You
We
got the
do.
people that when they say, yeah, Trump, people will look at them and
They're
try
afraid.
to, you know,
Yes.
they're afraid that somebody's going to,
Call them a racist.
yeah, that's so, I mean,
So-
startling.
Is that changing? Are you finding that it's getting a little better out there? What do you guys think? No?
We are attacked almost daily
Almost
for
daily.
flying that flag.
we have 3 open police reports, all of them right now for younger men attacking us. You know, and I'm 49 years old, and people younger than my kids are coming up to attack us on the streets.
Yeah, some people try to snatch the flag.
Right.
Somebody got a flag, darn it. Yeah, they got one from me the first time, and we should have seen it. But it's, you know, it's we're trying hard to bring awareness to people. We live feed everything that we do, partly for our protection and partly so other people can understand, you know, look, this is it. If we had Trump flags out of every car window that voted for Trump, we wouldn't have so much aggravation out there. So,
But
you
your
know,
flags are pretty big too.
yeah, oh
Yes.
yeah, they're full size flags. They go everywhere. They've gone to California. We go to California and we stand with them. They're a state that's lost everything, and I think it's really great to have them come here and explain what happens when you don't stay on top of it.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up this segment, but can you guys stay a little longer? We're gonna do something a little different and extend our show by about 10, 15
Yeah,
minutes.
absolutely.
Because we wanna talk more about your organization and find out what you're doing out there and more about the event. So stay tuned for more of the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Alice Latta here with
Don Jorge.
Leah Lecran. We'll be back with Lisa Antone and Jennifer Harrison with Patriots in Motion. Don't go away.
Okay, we're
We're
still
clear.
live on Facebook. No, I just needed you to scoot up a little bit because you're almost like coming out of the
Oh, okay.
other
I'm
frame
sorry.
or
Thank
towards
you for
Georgia.
correcting me.
You could actually
If I
at
if I
times
say
go that way.
something,
Yeah,
is
there
that how
you
I put
go.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, you were like right on the
Yeah,
verge.
oh,
We're just
Yes.
basically. So it's just basically.
I don't want to get too
Yeah.
close to George because I don't want Nancy to get jealous.
Yeah.
Nancy
That'd be
gonna
good.
be okay if I'm this close?
Oh,
Nancy's not gonna care because I don't want her coming after me.
She might.
Oh, Nancy.
Yeah,
oh,
Nancy's
yeah,
your
I
girlfriend.
watch Nancy.
I don't want to upset your girlfriend, Nancy.
There you go.
Now, you guys.
Yeah, you don't have to go that far. You can just right here.
Okay.
Okay, don't
They
forget.
want you to like chop.
all
Have
these
it in half.
segments, a couple of segments are brought to you by One Truth. This is one of our sponsors. And go to iTunes, check out their
Selfie.
CD, and you'll really love their songs. That's One Truth with JC Gonzalez on iTunes.
There you
You want
go.
to give them a commercial about this one?
And I was gonna do. And
Hey, George, since,
don't forget the Great Comedians. It's going to be on March the 23rd, 24th, and 25th at the Herbert Theater with Brad Zinn and his many impersonations. And he's going to it's to benefit the Damien Gosart Memorial Foundation.
Damien Gosa.
Yeah, Damien Gosa Foundation. What did I say?
You said Gosar. It's because we love Gosar so much.
Gosa. Check it out. We got tickets already, me and Alice and Brandon.
going.
We're going. So we hope to see you. We're going to be there on Friday. So
That's when we're gonna be there, is on the Friday.
Oh, you're gonna go Friday
Yes.
also? Oh, cool.
Yes, we're going on the Friday.
Do you know where you're sitting?
No, we haven't got our tickets yet because look, Jen, another thing that we forgot to buy tickets for.
Yeah.
So look for us. Look for us.
Okay.
We'll all kind of
Yes,
sit together.
absolutely.
We are,
Maybe he'll take us to the green room or something.
we're in the balcony because that's where they could get us all together.
Oh, okay, cool, great. We'll actually look for balcony because we're kind of balcony or basement.
So look for the balcony. 'Cause that's where we're going to be. In.
Right on. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, he came to Writers last week, the Writers USA meeting, so.
You have one for Steve too?
If he wants to go. Do you wanna go, Steve,
What's that?
to the Brad's Inn performance?
Yeah, I'm gonna hopefully go. I think it was a Friday when I talked to
Now, you're
Brad.
gonna be here next week, so next week I'll bring the tickets and then I think I'll give everybody their tickets.
Okay.
So then that way I won't have to be responsible.
Oh, he'll be here next week.
Yeah.
Brad's
Oh,
in ones,
great.
yeah.
Great.
Oh, he is so
Okay,
good.
15
He
seconds.
does a Pledge of Allegiance transition where he talks to the students and what's his name? Who's that comedian?
Yeah, we met him. We met him.
And
at
we
the
are
Writers.
back with the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Alice Nada here with,
Don Jorge.
and we have two wonderful guests. If you are listening or watching us on centerright.live or on Facebook live stream, we are going a little bit longer than we normally do because we had a great guest, Jean Copelson, who wrote a Reagan book, and we want to have plenty enough time to talk to Lisa Antone and also Jennifer Harrison, and they are with Patriot Movement Arizona. I was saying, I'm sorry I didn't say that right.
That's
Thank you
okay.
for correcting me.
Okay.
And you can even go to their website. It's patriotmovementaz.net, where you can find all kinds of information about these constitutional activists. You know, I'm so excited. I'll tell you why too, because we don't see enough women out there still. So to have two women out there, it's exciting to me.
It's like when we met the deplorable Latinas.
Mhm.
We're so proud. I'm so happy
Right.
to see them and what they're doing, and now to see you
Yes.
girls and what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank
You
you.
know, and Susan Trindell with the hashtag
Yes.
Mega. I mean, it's like
Yes.
we'd love to see women take initiative like that, and it speaks so much for the women movement.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that it's not just a Democratic
Right.
women movement. We have the Republican women movement. Look at Alice; she's been doing this forever.
It seems
Mhm.
like it. Has. Central Republican Women. Let me give a shout out to Central Republican Women in Phoenix, of which you are a quack also.
I'm
Do
a
you guys
quack.
belong to Republican Women's Club? No, I need to
No, we
recruit
do
you.
not.
No, yeah.
Recruit
You-
You do.
Recruiting.
Yeah, okay, all right. We
You
should
gotta
get
invite
you to
them.
the club.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you-
Susan too is actually helping us with this rally. She's
Oh, yeah.
yeah, she actually does stuff with us. It's so important, I think, that these groups connect.
It is.
You know,
It is.
connect and help each other and do what we can do to support. So Susan's a great friend.
And they're all needed. So I want you to speak to somebody is out there and they're kind of like, you know what, I really do want to support my president. Give them some tips on what the best way to do this. We get involved with groups like yours on a small scale, but what would you recommend?
You know, I started out, I bought a Trump hat.
That's a good start.
You know,
That was
and you
it.
just put it on and you wear it through populated areas, and
It's got
It-
that magical power.
it is empowering. It is liberating, and I feel like once you have reached that concern, once you've gotten past that fear that you're going to be attacked. I mean, we're a little obnoxious. We do carry megaphones
We
everywhere
weren't
we
allowed in
go.
Nancy Pelosi's town hall.
Oh, that's right.
You didn't sneak in with
guys.
Jerry.
No.
Oh, you're the one being
We were
thrown
the
out.
ones-
Yeah, that's
And you got
Oh.
thrown out? That's
No,
magical.
we weren't let in.
I
We
watched
weren't
it.
let in.
I watched it. You go, why? I'm a constituent from
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that was
Right.
us. That was
Yeah.
us. And so we went full protest.
Like
So we
girls
got our
over.
megaphones and we went full protest.
And hey, I mean, if you've got the gall to start there, by all means, go for it. But, find us on Facebook, Patriot Movement AZ. We're very active in the group, in the messaging and the communications.
But you did have the Trump hat on when you got when they told you?
No,
You
Actually,
had to make
I
America
didn't
great.
put it
but
on until our tickets were canceled.
Well, and,
Oh,
and
okay.
it didn't
'cause
matter.
when I saw you, you
Yeah.
had that on.
Yeah, well, it didn't matter because our names were handwritten at the bottom saying "Do not allow
Oh,
in."
so they found out who you were.
They saw that they saw the Facebook event and they saw our names.
Terry slipped in, but you.
Yes.
Yes, because her
Yes.
Facebook name is different than her actual name.
Yeah, she did have to show ID.
I just figured because she's brown like me and like
Right.
Like, oh, you must be a Democrat,
Right.
so we'll let you in.
Right.
Yes. No, and her name is different, but yeah, that was us.
So yeah, I mean, find us on Facebook, and if you're looking for, some friends to MAGA around town with, we're definitely the group. Come out to the rally. You'll meet hundreds of local Arizona Patriots, California Patriots, candidates, our local politicians that we'll have speaking at the rally, and just come on out. It's going to be a great day.
Where's the park? Give the location.
The park, we will be releasing the location the day before the event. We're just concerned we have a personal private security team in place. It's not a security issue. It's more about protecting the integrity of our permit.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you heard about the Milo event that was
Yeah.
canceled.
And that was false news.
Yes.
But he canceled it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're just, we don't make a whole lot of friends doing what we do on the left. So we just want to make sure that nothing happens to the permit getting pulled or, the city
Well,
thinking that
you're a friend of the right.
Yes.
Yes. And we're, and it's in Phoenix, which isn't outside of Sal and Jim, not necessarily the most conservative Phoenix
Area.
or city council you've ever seen. So we just, to try to keep the integrity, we're like, we're not gonna release
But it
That's
will
interesting.
we've given the location, which is west of I-17 and
Northwest Phoenix.
yeah, and south of the 101. So it kind of gives people an idea of where it is, and we're just, we want to make sure that we
gotta keep
get
it
in
safe.
there.
So
Right.
be on Facebook or
Right.
you're
So
Yeah.
yes, Patriot Movement AZ is the page, and Friday afternoon we will be blasting out the full address, location, then all of the information about the event, the speakers, all of the things that we'll have offered at the rally will be are already posted on the page.
Cindy
just-
says to say hi.
Who?
Cindy Mc.
Oh,
Hi, Cindy. We love you.
Hi. I
Annette,
think
Annette loves you big time.
I
Super
think-
fan.
I think the important thing too to remember is, when you're thinking about going out and you do this when you're so proud of your president instead of doing this when the left doesn't have a problem doing this really loudly. I think the important thing to remember is not to let the haters define you. They're gonna call you a racist. They're gonna call you a Nazi. They're gonna call you, names to try to get you to
Be quiet.
to be quiet because you don't want to be called names. And the fact is they're going to call you names no matter what color you are, no matter what ethnicity you are, no matter what your background is. If you stand against the fascist left, you get called a fascist. So it's, you just have to remember they don't define who you are and be okay with it. It's,
When you stand in truth, there's
Yes.
nothing to fear.
yes.
Exactly.
And so, it's, we'd be proud. And we always say, don't resist success. What are you resisting? You're resisting success.
I also want to ask you, how are you doing in your efforts to recruit younger people?
Well, we have the college Republicans coming out to the rally, so we're
Oh,
super
very,
excited
very
about
excited.
that.
Very
I
exciting.
think that is going to be the deal breaker for Arizona is getting the younger
The younger,
generation,
The millennials.
to stop eating Tide Pods and to
Yeah.
do some research and they're voting.
Those are only the Democrats.
Right,
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Hopefully no conservative.
Right.
I don't think the young conservatives would because those things are expensive.
Right.
They are.
Right.
They are. Yes. In
No,
fact,
we poke fun.
yeah. We have the young Republicans, and I think too, it's when you bring a different level of energy and you're not, let's meet at Denny's, and everybody has a place, but that they're not the let's meet at Denny's and talk about what needs to be done. So I think the big thing, you find your niche, and for the young kids, hopefully, or the younger generation, hopefully that's getting out and being active and being proud and not,
And being a voice.
and being a voice.
And
being
so,
a voice.
and also at the rally, we're going to be honoring the Arizona victims that have been killed or murdered by illegal aliens here in the state of Arizona. So we have a few angel parents that will be speaking. We'll also have an angel table where we will be showcasing their photographs, telling their stories. We just really want these citizens who were tragically killed at the hands of illegal aliens to be honored and remembered.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention a few of them?
Yes.
Yeah, we have speaking, we have Marianne Mendoza, Steve Ronnebeck, and Laura Basurto. And so they're all three local families and or local relatives. And so they'll be speaking and they're gonna read the names of
Now, I know that Steve
these-
Ronnebeck, he's the father of the young man that was killed at the gas station.
Yes.
yes.
And then Mary Ann, her husband was a police officer.
son.
Yes.
Or son,
Her
excuse
son.
me, okay. Wrong way, I think driver
Yes.
was an illegal, but I'm not familiar with the rest.
Lori Basurto is actually one of our local activists, and she's in Tucson, I believe. She's in Tucson. She comes out to stand against DACA with us, and her grandson was killed by an illegal alien, and so she's actually a local activist in Tucson, and so she's going to join us and speak. And we have Tim Foley.
Tim Foley's great, he's a friend of the show. We've had him on.
Yes,
And then
yes.
you got,
Border Recon, I think he's.
Yes.
Yes, Arizona Border Recon, and get some
Yeah.
truth about what's going on
That's
really
great.
at that
Yeah, he's
border.
been on our show a couple of times.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. So he's coming. And these are our California patriots, most of whom I gave a shout out to.
Are they moving to Arizona after they become speaker?
I wish. But somebody's got to save there and
Somebody's
try
gotta
to
be
save
there.
that
You're right.
state.
You're
They've
right.
got to
Okay,
save
we'll
that
let them
state.
stay there.
And then we do have also a special guest. We have Larry Schweikert
Oh, wow.
coming to speak, and that's a huge one. And he's going to be doing book signings, A Patriot's History of the United States of America. That's his newest book. So he'll be bringing his books there too. And we have raffles to do. We're raffling off some great stuff. We've got food trucks. We have music.
Music and
Josh-
dancing and
Josh
flag waving.
Bernstein is going to be emceeing the whole thing for us. So we have Josh Bernstein, and we've got vendors, flags and shirts, and it's
All your Trump gear.
yeah, all your get your Trump gear here.
George's
So
gonna be there, I know that.
I have be at the races.
Oh, you bet the races.
Ah.
Gee. Well, I think what we should do is award them a whole enchilada award. 'Cause that's they got the whole enchilada.
Yes.
yeah,
We went big.
and Arizona Citizens Defense League.
Oh, nice.
Yes, because I did not know until I talked to them how much more important, I don't want to say more important, how much more involved in Arizona's Second Amendment rights are than, say, the NRA, which is a national level. And so in the state of Arizona, they have 14,500 paid members in Arizona Citizens Defense League, and I would like to walk away from this rally with a few more hundred paid members because they are full-time working to protect our Second
I
Amendment
bet
rights.
that you will. Thank you so
So-
much. So we want to thank the Patriot Movement Arizona. Thank you, Jennifer Harrison and Lisa Antone. I'm Alice
Thank you.
Ladowitz.
Jorge, Don Jorge.
Be with us again next Saturday. Don't forget about this rally. We'll have information on it. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Walk on.
Walk on.
Guac on!
Walk on.
Wow.
Yay, that was
Nice
so
job.
much
That
fun.
was so fun.
Thank you.
Thanks so
I
much.
know.
You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Facebook.
Nice.
Wow, that was cool.
I know. You did good. Better than the first time on radio.
So this is really interesting, not disclosing where the event's going to be. Has
I
that
know,
ever
yeah.
been done before? I think that's kind of